Yvonne Rivera. I'm lucky enough to be a teacher in JCPS. I'm a building rep for JCTA. I'm one of the founders of JCPS Leads and Kentucky Educators United. And I'm a member of Louisville PTO and Dear JCPS and Arrows, and I don't even know what else.
My name is Jacoya. I am a second-year teacher here in JCPS. I am associated with Teach Kentucky, and I am the BSU sponsor at my high school.
What school are you at, please?
Southern High School.
Okay, great. We've had an interesting first 2 years, I know.
I'm Annabelle Majors, and I'm here with my friend Liv. We both go to Manual, and we're writing a story about this meeting so that we can share it with the rest of the JCPS community.
Excellent. So you all, what your publication again is, give me the name.
It's Manual Red Eye. It's an online
Red Eye,
publication.
that's right. That's right. You all do good work. You really do. You're the only student newspaper who open records requests my emails. So
Yes.
I find that to be impressive. You did something about a year ago that I remember. I can't remember the topic, but you all did. You wrote a great story.
We did. It was like a explainer about the student backpacks. That was a big deal.
Yeah, that's right. What grades are you all in?
We're both seniors.
Seniors. Well, I hope we can get you back in school soon enough.
Thank you.
Greg Titchener. I'm a teacher with JCPS at Waller Williams and involved with a lot of grassroots organizations around town.
Nice to meet you, Greg.
Kimberly Johnson. I'm a teacher at Westport Middle School, and I'm also a Black mother. And I've lived in Louisville my entire life, and so my whole family's from here.
What do you teach, Kimberly?
I teach English and language arts.
Great. Nice meeting you.
Heather and Leo. I don't believe either of you.
I'm Heather Prophet. I'm a parent. I'm also an education specialist. I do a lot of advocacy work, and currently I am running a community learning hub out of my nonprofit location, excuse me.
Where is that?
We're located on Crumbs Lane.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for your work.
Yeah, thank you.
I am Leo Toby. I'm a freshman at Manual. But I am reporting on this meeting for Scholastic. The Coalition for the People's Agenda asked me to. So
Right.
I will be.
What program are you in at Manual, Leo?
I'm in JNC.
Oh, okay. So you're a journalist too. Excellent. Well, what middle school did you go to?
I went to Louisville Classical Academy.
Okay. Well, it's nice meeting you, Leo. Glad
Nice to
you're at
meet you too.
JCPS.
Thank you.
Kenyatta. Just a quick introduction.
She's driving, I think.
She is. All right, and I'm Gay Adelman. I am one of the co-chairs of Dear JCPS and Save Our Schools Kentucky. I'm not co-chair, co-founder of Dear JCPS and Save Our Schools Kentucky. I'm also on the board of the Kentucky Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression, and I'm a parent of a graduate of the Academy at Shawnee who just this year commissioned from the U.S. Naval Academy.
Congratulations.
So I think everybody that's on the call has introduced themselves.
It looks like Kenyatta's off mute if she wanted to get an intro.
You want to say something, Kenyatta?
Oh, no.
Oh, it says connecting. All right, so Dr. Pollio, what we were thinking is if your presentation to us is something that we've been able to see online or by watching board meetings and is pretty much the argument why we need the tax increase and why we should support the student assignment changes, then if you don't mind, I'd like for us to probably bypass that because we're very familiar with the arguments and unless there's something new that you want to share with us that maybe is not out in the public yet, we would like to use this time to share our concerns with you because we have not been able to speak at a board meeting since COVID, since March. And we have some concerns that the community does not, no matter how we feel, the people on this call feel about the student assignment plan and the tax increase, we're aware that the community is not in full support of the tax increase yet. So what we've been trying to do is communicate to you the concerns that we're hearing and the suggestions and feedback and demands that are coming from the community. So
Okay.
if you have something that you would like to lead off with, please do. Otherwise, I'll share my slides.
I was going to share the resolution with you, but if you all have already seen that, then I don't want to take your time with me with something you've already seen, but that's up to you.
So let's do a quick show of hands or something from the group. Are you familiar with the resolution that was passed at the special meeting they held last Tuesday? And would you like to spend a few minutes hearing from Dr. Pollio about what's in it? In favor, put your hand.
Is that, do you want me to, or
I see one person, maybe Danita and Jacoya.
is that yes, they want me to, or no, they already?
I think that
Yes,
was
I want you to.
You would like to hear it, Jacoya? Okay, I'll do it quick. I've got a little presentation. I won't take much time on it. But I just wanted to say, and I'm going to say this, I believe this is in 25 years of public education in JCPS, I believe this is the most important thing that can happen for the students in our school district, in our community. Simply put, money matters. Research is very clear. When you fund students, and you particularly fund students in need, outcomes change. And we want significant outcomes to change and direct dollars at certain students so that we can have different outcomes than we've ever had. Over the past 6 to 8 months, I have studied history. I've studied history of the student assignment plan. I studied the last time JCPS went down the road of asking for an additional tax. It was in 1982. It lost in May of 1982. In 1984 is when they changed to this student assignment plan, which I will tell you, this student assignment plan, I believe, is the most racist and inequitable student assignment plan that anyone could possibly have. And so we can argue a lot whether our solution is the right one. I don't think anyone could possibly argue that right now, this student assignment plan isn't the most inequitable that we have. We also acknowledge we have to provide great supports for the students of West Louisville, and that's exactly where these dollars are committed to, and that's exactly what our board, which I'll be quite honest, I didn't know if I could get a resolution through a board and have 5 people raise their hand. Chris Brady wasn't there, Linda Duncan abstained, but 501 is a huge victory for us in the fact that we stepped up and going to do this. I'm going to tell you, 2011, 2012, and 2013 in this district, Donna Hargens and the board did not take 4% each of those years, which you are legally allowed to do, and not have a referendum. To date, that has cost this district, and I shouldn't say this district, it's cost the kids of this district $350 million. And by the time we get to 2025, it will cost us $750 million. And so we need to make up for that, but we need to be very intentional about how we do it. Can you share, Gay, are you the host? Can you make me a share? I promise I'm not going to PowerPoint you long. I just want to show you exactly the buckets. We all sit and look at screens way too long these days anyway.
Because it didn't give me the option to do anything else, so try that.
All right, let me try this. All right. And I've just been committed to, when I say the words future state, it is just a different way of doing things in this district than we've done them before. And this is what our board is committed to. Now, I will tell you this, I'm going to be honest with you, a resolution is not binding. You know, each of these things has to be voted on separately by our board. So I don't want to say this is a package that has been approved, but this is what we are committed to our funding. You know, we've talked about the student assignment plan. We're obviously in the middle of a pandemic, and we are asking for this tax increase. And so, you know, I'm going to be honest about our major challenges. We have racial inequity in this district and really every district in America, but, you know, this is our district. Our funding from the state is going down and is going to get hammered in next year's budget cycle. We have opportunity gaps for kids where certain kids have opportunity and certain kids don't. And we all have to agree our infrastructure and our buildings are in a terrible condition right now and at crisis state as we speak. We are fixing the Academy at Shawnee, the 3rd floor. I've seen it. It's going to be awesome. I'm so proud of that. But let's talk about the investment in West Louisville right now in our buildings. The last middle or high school we built in West Louisville was 1952. The new Central High School, which is that school's at the end of life and could be condemned at any time. That's the newest high school or middle school we've built in West Louisville. So we have to step up and say that we haven't done that. And so when I face these major challenges and made the case, I know we went into a pandemic and I thought, well, there's no way we're going to do this now. But this is my belief. We need it now more than ever. This was before, you know, we really had the racial unrest in our community. But now I'm even more committed to that this is the right way to go, that education is the answer, at least from the perspective of the next generation. I believe that's why we're all here, because we believe that. And so, you know, I'm not a believer in standardized testing. I believe that there is bias in standardized testing, but I do believe that we have to reduce the achievement gap by at least 50%. There is a 30-point difference right now in reading and math between Black and white students. There is difference in transition ready, which is old college and career ready, and we have to be committed to saying that's not acceptable anymore, and we are going to eliminate that. And so with our community investment, and I am, you know, this is the most important thing I can do in 25 years. In a 10-year period, this will bring $1 billion to our students and make up for the mistake that was made before. And so, first of all, we have to be committed to racial equity. And we just can't talk it, we have to fund it. We have to increase student instructional time. And I'm just going to be quite honest with you here, and I think a lot to blame for this is the student assignment plan. Right now in JCPS and specifically West Louisville, 50% of our high school kids are chronically absent and 40% of our middle school kids are chronically absent. That means 18 school days a year. We've got to meet the needs of our kids. I think that's student assignment, and I think that's wraparound services for our kids, that's mental health professionals, that's medical professionals. And then we've got to have 10,000 kids in summer learning. The more you do something, the better you will be at it. And so we have to invest at targeted kids and getting them in summer learning programs. You know my belief, every student deserves choice in the student assignment plan, which they don't have now. I believe we have to better resource our low-performing schools. So there's many things about that, from mental health professionals to, I believe, in taking every step possible to having experienced teachers and leaders in our lowest performing schools and not having the turnover. We've got to be committed to that. And then I think improving our workforce and leadership development. Teaching in JCPS is harder, I believe that, than at neighboring counties. We face more challenges, and therefore we must we must have a differential in pay that is greater than what it is now for teachers in this community. And so just briefly, I'm not going to take up more time, resources for students in schools with highest need. I think we need to put millions of dollars specifically. You know, we've built a support plan for student assignment where Shawnee and our new middle school would have the best supports of any school in our district. But we want incentives to attract and retain the best teachers, more and better PD for teachers and principals, wraparound service for kids, so more mental health professionals. We put one in, but that's just scratching the surface at many of our schools. And I believe having summer learning programs for all students in these schools, and you'll see how much we invest in these. Student instructional time by 2023, I think, and these need to be intentionally picked. 10,000 students in summer learning. It's even more important now with COVID-19. We must have kids, and this will be a multiple year process to catch kids up, and that will have to be during summer. And so we're going to be very intentional, offering experiences beyond the classroom, and I believe we can do this. We've learned from COVID-19. Every single student in need, especially those in West Louisville, have a computer or a laptop plus connectivity. I said we can't just talk about racial equity, we have to fund it. I believe we have to build new schools in our underserved communities. I'm committed to doing that. Hasn't happened since 1952. One school in West Louisville since 2000. Choice for all students. And I think we need to expand our programs, 100 a year in our teacher residency and our program with Simmons to get Black teachers and other teachers of color into our classrooms. And then finally, facilities. I can't say enough about facilities. We are coming to a crisis point in JCPS. If you travel up the road to Fayette County and go into a school that serves predominantly Black students, you will see a very different building than that in JCPS. They passed a nickel tax 2 years ago, and they've built 10 schools in 10 years. We've done nothing. We know Ballard is our newest school, and I've said before, what I think is symbolic of a lack of investment in West Louisville. In 1981, they shut down the third floor at Shawnee because it was structurally unsound, and they said there wasn't enough students. It has sat like that for 39 years, 39 years. Ballard's football stadium is condemned, and we have to fix it within 1 year, or people in East Louisville would go crazy. I think we need to flip that coin and invest in West Louisville, renovate our schools, and build at least 2 new middle schools and 1 new high school. And so, this is pretty simple. We're asking 7 cents per $100 of assessed value. I know it's a difficult time to ask, but if we don't do it now, 2 years from now, we'll be too late. I believe that, and I'll stand behind that and stand in front of anybody and say that, which will bring us in $54 million per year directed directly at this. This is how it will be spent. $15 million for facilities. That will increase our bonding capacity, which is how we build schools, to over $600 million. And we can really go to work on our facilities and be proud of them in our poorest communities. $15 million to our highest need schools, our AIS schools. And so we are truly funding our schools to have true turnaround. This is what they did in Miami-Dade, and now they have no failing schools in Miami-Dade. But without funding, it won't happen. That has to happen. $12 million for racial equity. So we truly fund racial equity. We just don't talk about it. And $12 million for additional instructional time, where we have 10,000 kids every summer in at least a 4-week instructional program, engaging and extending their learning so that we can catch them up. And our Board of Education passed that resolution last Thursday, September 17th. And I was very proud of that we are earmarking this, and we want the community to hold us accountable. We want to have an outward facing webpage, or so to speak, dashboard, so people can see exactly every single year where there's $54 million. I'm committed to this. It's one of the most important things I think we can do. I've been told by others, we've got to show everyone that how this impacts every community, or we won't vote for it. I'm not willing to do that. I want to say exactly who this is supporting, exactly where it's going. I'll make the case. If we win the election, we win it. If we don't, we don't. But I'm going to stand up and make the case that this is where the money's going, and I'm committed to showing that. So we've got to do it now. I think this is a critical moment in education. I think this is the answer for our community in many ways. There's a lot of answers to problems, but this is one major one that I think we can take on and make a major difference. So I'm happy to take any questions about it. It's about as quick as I can do that.
Anyone have any questions?
That $12 million for racial equity, how would that be spent?
First of all, a major component is the digital divide. What we found is 50 to 75% of households in West Louisville either don't have a device or don't have connectivity. I think what I've learned out of this, that with school, we have so much opportunity to provide support to kids in a digital and virtual way outside of school. And so that's number one. Number two, I think learning hubs need to continue after. So right now we're doing it in place of school. I think we need to fund learning hubs specifically in West Louisville that are after school and on weekends. You know, I struggled my whole career as a principal to keep kids after school, either at J-Town or Doss. And it was such a struggle because taking the TARC home was difficult. The kids needed to get home, jump on the bus, they'd be home in 20 minutes, or watch a sibling. I understand that. But if we have learning hubs where we fund the learning hubs with teachers after school and weekends, kids can still go home and walk up to a community center and be in a learning hub. So bridge the digital divide, learning hubs, and then I think we need to invest significantly in our Black teacher program. So right now, our teacher residency program, we have about 50 teacher residents, 35 are Black. That costs $1.2 million a year to have that teacher residency. And what we do, we pay them to be in the classroom with a master teacher, and we give a stipend to the master teacher, and U of L pays for their one-year master's degree program. I think we need to triple the numbers in that because we are not going to change. Right now, we have 14% Black teachers in JCPS. 36% of our kids are Black. We cannot do that. So those are some of the specific things we're talking about. I don't want to say that that's it. You know, there will be a lot of conversations with board members about where that should go. Those are some of the things I've identified, but I still believe there needs to be a lot of conversation with community, with our board members. But what I want to be committed to is saying that $12 million is earmarked specifically. It has to show that it's reducing the achievement gap.
Any other questions?
I have a couple of questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, you mentioned that Ballard High School is the newest school. Do you mean the newest high school?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, the newest high school. 52 years ago it was built. We've built one school in the past decade. That was Norton Commons Elementary out in far east Louisville. That's the one school we've built since 2010. That was probably approved for being built in 2006 or 7. So really since that time, we've not broken ground on any school building. And at the same time, Fayette County has built a dozen schools by the time we build our next one.
Okay, and then I have some other questions. You mentioned several things about like increasing the equity for Black students. What I found in my experience is a lot of Black students don't feel like they belong at school.
Correct.
And so what has been done to increase culturally relevant instruction, and also with counselors, culturally relevant counseling? Because if I don't feel like I belong in a place, or if I feel dehumanized, then I'm not coming. I don't care what kind of buildings come up and what kind of technology is there. I'm not going to participate. And so I guess I'll stop there. So what's been done, because I know we have PDs, and I've been a part of those PDs, but it just seems like to me that once the PD is over and you get your PD credit and you check off, yes, I've attended that PD, then nothing else occurs after that. So the PD was not affected.
Yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of it, so I don't want to put it all on schools, but, you know, I mean, schools need to have a comprehensive plan of professional development. All too often it's a smorgasbord of PD, like pick this one now, pick this one. I mean, if culturally relevant teaching should be a focus, if racial equity should be a focus, you get a training in the summer, and it should be going on all year long. It shouldn't be a smorgasbord. Now, in this, we are putting, you know, that we will earmark, I believe, a great deal of dollars to racial equity, professional development. But I'm gonna tell you, it's hard. You know, just the beating I took last week over, anybody see that book that was read in elementary school? Something happened in our, and I, you know, I didn't even know, you know, I mean, until that night, and everyone blows up about it. So I came in the next morning and I said, let me see the book. And I read it and I was like, I don't understand what's wrong with this. And, So we had to decide at that point, we can't just talk racial equity. The first time the conversation gets hard, we have to be willing to say, all right, I'm sorry, this is what we are doing. But you would not believe the hate emails, that the lack of civility right now in our country is disturbing. But the hate emails I get about that, and any racial equity work we do, like the implicit bias training, the hate emails I've gotten about that. It's disturbing to me, but it takes courage. And it does. You are exactly right. It should not be one-off professional development. So I couldn't agree more. I think we got to continue to work with our schools on it. They should have a focus and train and drill that all year long. And every faculty meeting, every professional development, everything should have some part of that being about what that central component is. So I do think funding is important, but a little bit more of saying, okay, this is what we're about and we're going to do it all the time. But you're right about that problem.
I have a quick question. Is that all right?
Sure.
When you say professional development, do you mean things like the implicit bias training, or like what exactly does that mean?
Well, that's one of them. So professional development is really hard right now. Let's be honest. I mean, true professional development in a virtual setting can be done, but it's not easy. When you really dig into something as a teacher, and you're there and you're with colleagues and you can have conversations, that is when true professional development happens. So yes, it can be, yes, the implicit bias was professional development. Culturally responsive teaching has a whole menu of professional developments. Professional developments could be about, how to use a platform. So there's a wide variety of things, but professional development should be used to improve the teaching efficacy and pedagogy of a teacher. So whether that's curriculum-based or support-based or technology-based, that is what we're talking about. Professional development is improving a teacher's efficacy.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So Dr. Pollio, we are halfway through the call, and we still have our concerns that we would like to to share with you.
Sure.
Do you have a hard stop at 5, or can we kind of?
I could probably go about 10 minutes after 5, but I got to be done about 5:10.
All right, I've got some slides, so I'm going to try to go through them pretty quickly, and then we can pause at the end or stop along the way for a few interjections.
Okay.
But, regarding the resolution, before I do that, we had 2 more people come on the call. Amanda, well, Kenyatta, I don't think you got a chance to say hello, so would you say hello now that you've stopped driving?
Hi, Dr. Pollio. Kenyatta Dean Bacon. I'm a JCPS teacher, concerned parent. I appreciate you taking the time to have this talk with us. Forgive me today. My heart is heavy, and I don't know that I'm really in the right space to share out too much. I did have a quick question, though, because you brought up the age of Ballard and Norton Elementary. I just wanted to know, in there, was Ramsey Middle School and Farmer Elementary new constructions, or were they?
Ramsey was built, I think it opened in 2007. So I guess that was probably started about 03, 04. I think Farmer was built a little bit before that. I think Farmer might have been 04, 05. But there's been 4 schools built since 2000. Foster Elementary in West Louisville, Ramsey Middle School, Farmer Elementary, and Norton Commons are the 4 schools that have been built this century in JCPS. Where do you,
That's all.
Thank you.
Sorry,
where do you teach?
I'm at Newburgh Middle School.
Okay, great. Nice to meet you.
And Amanda, I think, came on the call. Say hello, Amanda.
Hi, sorry I was a little bit late. I got stuck in traffic coming off of downtown, and that was a little messy. So,
Hi, Amanda.
JCPS parent.
Nice to meet you.
Hi.
All right, so regarding the resolution, I have a couple more questions. When did the idea to introduce a resolution via the board come to you?
I think we talked about it about 2 weeks ago when You know, there was a lot of questions about how the money's going to be spent, and that if, you know, we want support for it, that was a main concern, that the money was not going to be spent for the right students at the right places at the right time. And so our board really wanted to be committed to telling the community where that's going to be spent. So probably 2 weeks ago, Gay.
And how often do you pass resolutions? Is that a common thing?
No, it's not. The only last one I could think of was during the teacher sick out when we made it. Then there might be one in between. The last major one I could think of was the teacher sick out. Remember when the names were requested to go to the attorney, not the attorney general, the whatever, I can't remember who I was supposed to send them to, but we did a resolution saying that we'll send them in because we're being subpoenaed, but we disagree with that. I think that was the last time that was done. So that was probably, what, a year and a half ago?
Yes, and I'm also familiar with the Safe Haven resolution in 2017.
That is correct. That was, so those are the three major ones of JCPS that I know of. There may have been some smaller ones in there, but I know those are the big ones that we've done.
Well, do you recall when Tyra and I had a call with you back in July 16th, and also when the day after David McAtee was killed, Tyra and Latasha and I had a call scheduled with you, but they weren't able to join us. On both of those calls, I did mention to you that we were interested in a resolution in support of the coalition in support of the People's Agenda. And so I was kind of surprised to see a resolution come out since it is one of our demands and it's been circulated on our slides. Joe Marshall and Corey Scholl have both been on our calls and are familiar with us requesting the resolution. Lisa Wilner came on our call and talked about the history of Safe Haven, and we asked them to bring that information to the board. So were you aware that we were also interested in a resolution as one of our 4 demands?
I remember you saying that a resolution. I have not seen the 4 demands, so I wasn't aware of that. But board members have been talking about a resolution. So you know, I've clearly said I support that 100%.
All right. Some of my concerns about the resolution are that it doesn't really go into the how, and it's not specific. And also, I have concerns about $15 million when we know that it took $40 million just to renovate the 3rd floor of Shawnee. And we know that in order to have equitable schools, it's going to take a lot more than just $15 million. And it's not even specific as to where that money will be spent. And isn't there also another school that's been approved that's in the process of being having ground broken?
In West Louisville?
In East Louisville.
We will break ground probably this month on Indian Trail in Newburgh. So that's the next one that's going to be, ground's going to be broken. But I do want to say this, Gay, $15 million with building schools, it's not the dollars that when you put $15 million, it doubles our bonding capacity. So right now we have about $250 million in bonding capacity, which is it's like getting a mortgage for a house. It's the money you borrow as a school district and pay over 20 years. That is devastatingly low for a district our size. So it gets us close to $600 million by putting $15 million to facilities every year. So actually, by putting $15 million in, we're getting about $350 million worth of facilities. And I believe we are committed to 1 middle school in West Louisville, maybe 2, and possibly a 2nd high school in West Louisville. That is a part of this, that's where that money is going to go.
So is that commitment specific in I didn't see that specifically. Like, it's just like right now, the season that we're in, we just want things to be where, I know you say that it can't exclusively be in black and white, but you know, we've been told things and then it goes back on it. So it would make the community, my community, more comfortable with being more supportive to JCPS if we see that.
So Latasha, I couldn't agree more, and I've said this. What I've learned and I knew this before, but what I've learned is there's very little trust in the Black community with major institutions. And so those institutions are the LMPD, Metro Government, Housing Authority, and we have to admit JCPS is one of those. So I'm open to saying that there is a lack of trust, and that's why we want to be firm with this. Now, with our current student assignment plan, though, it would be useless for us to build a middle school or another high school in West Louisville. We have Shawnee that is going to be a great facility. That's a building for 2,500 kids with the student assignment plan that only allows 400 kids to go to it. And so, you know, the day that we pass a student assignment plan on that same agenda, and if you look at our facilities plan, we've already added to it a new middle school in West Louisville, so that we can, and we are actually searching right now to see what properties are available, and we can't do anything until it's approved by the board, but we're doing that legwork. The day we approve student assignment is the day we approve a brand new middle school in West Louisville. But right now, I don't even know if we could have kids go to it because of the devastatingly bad student assignment plan that we have. And I'll say this once again, we have kids who have to go to Stewart Middle School. They have no other option. They live in West Louisville. They go to Stewart Middle School in Valley Station, and then they go to Ballard High School in East Louisville, and vice versa, Camerer to Valley. And we wonder why kids have a lack of sense of belonging, and I believe that's the reason why. So I know this board, I'm telling you, this board is committed to this. And so I just, you know, once again, I think a resolution is very symbolic in nature, and it's very important. But once again, I mean, they're going to still have to vote on each and every one of these items. That's state law that we really can't get around. So I'm committed to that. That's without a doubt, but that's why we put it in the resolution.
So do you feel that the specifics of what you stated just now that was in the resolution, or could it be clarified a little bit more to be more specific? Is that possible?
I think, well, I'll just tell you this. I mean, there was some concern with board members about how much this pins them into stuff, and it really wasn't about the facilities. They're all committed to West Louisville. But they wanted to have enough leeway in the buckets to still have, because their concern was, how do we know 18 months from now there's a bigger equity issue that we have and we don't fund that. You know, so they wanted these major buckets to be identified, but still have enough leeway for 18 months and not to pin themselves in on a certain thing. It really wasn't about the facilities, but that is what board members wanted. So I just, you know, this is not one of those things where I get to decide all of it. I know a lot of people think that, but you know, I would have no problem putting two middle schools and another high school, but I don't think we could have necessarily, being that specific, have gotten it, because what they would say, what happens if it needs to be an elementary school and two middle schools? So I think that is their concern.
So what is preventing you from funding the hubs now?
Nothing's preventing us from funding the hubs.
I'm under the understanding that the hubs are not happening. Are they happening?
Passed the contract with Evolve 502. They're the convening people. We're actually going to do as many subs as we can get in there, and as many teachers who want to work after hours. So I think we're funding it with a great number of dollars.
Is this in conjunction with the 21 churches and community centers, the Black churches that are in the West?
It is.
It is?
Yes.
I'm a little confused then, because I was under the understanding that that was not happening.
And that's not correct. Our last board meeting, we passed a memorandum of agreement with Evolve 502. They're the convening partner, and we provide the funding.
So we may need to follow up on that, because I have a different understanding and I need to circle back with some of my sources. But
You can see the MOA is on the board from the
Sure.
last meeting.
I am familiar with the 502. I was wanting to know about the community-led partnership that was evolving. It was not part of the Evolve 502.
I don't know what other ones. That was what we all, as a community group, agreed that so that JCPS wouldn't be the one saying yes or no to different organizations, that a community group would be saying which ones were a representative group from the community would be the ones, and we would be supplying the personnel.
Right, but when you say community group, Evolve 502 is a community group that grassroots groups don't have access to. We are shut out of these conversations. The impacted community is not privy to the decisions that are being made in these community groups. So that's part of our concern and what we're trying to communicate to you. And I'm worried that we're going to run out of time on this call to really have a deeper understanding of the things that we wanted to bring to you today. But I'm going to try to go through some of the high points, and if we need to schedule a secondary meeting or a follow-up meeting, we certainly can. This is the slide from our, the Coalition for the People's Agenda has been meeting for about 6 or 8 weeks, 7 weeks. And this is one of the slides that we've been carrying forward that board members Shaw and Marshall have both seen and participated in discussions on. And so when the resolution, when you called in a special meeting to pass this resolution that had been written, and GLI immediately came out with a supportive press release, it made it clear to us that GLI was aware that you were doing this, even though this is something that we've been trying to communicate was a goal of ours. However, our resolution is in support of the People's Agenda, which is in support of the movement for Black Lives. And so we looked for samples of other districts, other urban districts that have set a precedence in this area. And I shared a link in the chat from one of the ones that we discovered. And, you know, it's just an example of the types of language that could be used in a resolution to support a Black agenda, the People's Agenda. And our goal has been to request that this be introduced and passed at the September 29th, at your next board meeting. But we haven't been able to meet with you. We sent a request in August, on August 6th, for an urgent request for a meeting. And I appreciate you getting back to us. But here we are less than a week away from this board meeting. And it's going to be too late to really to do the things that the community has been trying to get put in your ear. And these are not unreasonable demands. These are part of what you see happening nationally. This is part of the movement for Black Lives, where there are universal demands being made across the country. And there's a Demand Safe Schools mission or coalition that we have signed on to. And the demands on there are very reasonable and something that we would like to continue to see as part of the People's Agenda. So that is still going to be one of our requests, is that the district pass a resolution in support of the People's Agenda. And so if you'd like to explore that with us further, we would love to set up a separate time to discuss what that might look like. And the next slide I have is, I just want to tell you a little bit.
Gay, I do want to say something.
Sure.
I haven't talked to anybody in GLI in 4 months, so I don't know what is GLI's about it. I haven't talked to anyone at GLI since probably, well, June would be the last time I talked with anybody with GLI. So I don't know what GLI is about.
Did they not have a supportive press release right after this meeting?
Yeah, I think I went there in June and made the case to support it. They took a vote of their members, and so then they decided it was lukewarm. It was like 58 to 48 or whatever that was, 58-50. But they went ahead and decided to support it, but there was no discussion about anything with GLI about a resolution.
Right, well, regardless, they seem to be aware, and it seemed to be something that they've been supportive of, and it was not anything that we've been asking for. So it felt very much like it was our idea, and it got implemented differently than what we had hoped. So we'd like to continue to put our request, regardless of that situation, we'd like to continue to put our request at the forefront. And then I also have concerns about Scala, the members of Scala that are part of the Yes for JCPS steering committee. I'd like to talk with you about that a little bit more too, because that is all tied to business interests who are not stakeholders in our public schools, the same way that the parents and the taxpayers and the community members are. So, you know, we've been trying to get your ear. We've been trying to have a meeting with you, and it's as grassroots groups, we have to try harder than groups with power and money and privilege to be heard. And so part of one of the reasons that we're frustrated right now is because we don't feel like there has been any intention made into making sure that our voices and concerns have been elevated and are being addressed.
Well, I understand that, and I apologize for that. But I'll say this, Gay, I've met with you more than any one person in the entire city since I started as superintendent. Any more than 5 times more than any one person. So I get it, but I'm also have a lot. I mean, my schedule right now, what we're trying to do is unprecedented. So I want to meet with you. I want to be responsive to you, but I will not hear that I'm not meeting with you. And I know it's a different group. And so I understand there's people on this call who have not been a part of this call before, but we have to acknowledge that fact that I've met with you more than anyone else.
I don't know about how it compares to
Understand, but we need you to understand that Gay is backed by us. So when you meet with Gay, you meet with all of us. So you need to understand that.
100%
Gay is not alone.
100% agree with you on that. But that's what I'm just saying is I've been very available.
Well, the last time we met was July 16th. And that was when I brought to your attention, Tyra and Latasha were on that call, and we brought to your attention some concerns about how we were being pushed out and shut out. And I sent you follow-up text messages, and you went dark after that. And I don't mean to put you on the spot. That's not the purpose of today's call. But I do want to make sure that the facts are out there. And I know you're dealing with NTI, and you've got a million other things going on. And so let's not make that the point of what we're discussing. Let's talk about our goals and what we need to accomplish. When I first tried to reach out to you and I sent you the request for a meeting, it was because the district was pushing forward with their tax increase and assuming that everyone was in support of it when we were hearing from the community that they weren't. And I'm on the board, as I mentioned, I've been on the board of the Kentucky Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression since January. And I kid you not, every meeting since January, I have introduced a resolution recommending that the board, recommended a motion that the board support the tax increase. And every time it's been tabled. So that's how I became aware that this is just not budging. And it's not necessarily even that the community is opposed to supporting public education through a tax increase, although there are a number of people that are dealing with pandemic issues and unemployment and lack of funds, and this is a really bad time for them to have a tax increase. But I do think that that's a conversation that's worth having in that community, and so we need to be out there having that conversation. But more importantly, the attention is on so many other things. The attention is on justice for Breonna. The attention is on the terrorizing of our Black-brown community members when they simply advocate for justice, and not only at Injustice Square Park, but within the district. I mean, we have examples of educators who have been trying to raise awareness around racial justice issues, and they've been targeted, they've been harassed, they've been demoted. So these are all things that we've been trying to bring to your attention, and I've tried to go through normal channels as you recommended. I went to Jody Rind, like you suggested, and we hit a brick wall with her. And so I have some slides here that go into more detail about where we're hitting roadblocks, because without dismantling these roadblocks, we're never going to get anywhere. And so I put this slide up just to tell you the historical significance of the Kentucky Alliance and how important it is to get this group's support. This is the largest and oldest racial equity grassroots group in Louisville and in Kentucky, and they have not yet come out in support of the tax increase. So that is, in order to get the Black vote and in order to get the West End vote, we need to be working on addressing their concerns and figuring out what it is that is going to meet their needs, but not just them. the other organizations that have come on our call since we have been trying to do this even before the Coalition for the People's Agenda through the Kentucky Alliance. We attempted to do this through the Alliance to Reclaim Our Schools, and that's the concerns that we brought to you. And we were shut out repeatedly when the state takeover was announced. We also got shut out at that time. Our JCPS was formed out from underneath AROS, and we were not, our voices were shut out. We were not heard. There were rallies and protests planned that were counter to the things that the grassroots groups were trying to do. So it felt very much like we were being sabotaged. And AROS, the Alliance to Reclaim Our Schools. So this is the group that Chris Harmer is the chair of.
I understand. I have no influence over AROS. I mean,
hold on, and I'll tell you how you
talk to Chris Harmer at all. I don't know what I can do to influence AROS.
Okay,
I mean,
I'm not telling you that it's you, Dr. Pollio. I'm telling you that it's happening and we need your help.
I got you. Okay.
So the organization was formed 3 years ago. The leadership is questionable. Mostly it's influenced by JCTA. And so you do have JCTA playing a great deal of influence. They're also, Brent McKim is also one of your steering committee members that is part of the 501c4 that you just launched, that is being led by the same entity that is the same board members that are also leading the 501c, the foundation, so 501c3. So there's crossover of SCALA, GLI, and JCTA that seem to have put a stop to the work that we've been trying to do. And they intentionally came to our meetings and told us to wait. Chris Harmer arranged that meeting where you came and explained what was going on, and that was tied to why we were waiting. We were told to wait. And so if the district wants to wait and lay low on the tax increase message, that's fine, but we didn't want to. And so then when we couldn't make it happen within AROS, even though a quorum had agreed to move forward, one person was able to derail that, not once but twice. We went around, and then a hateful and mischaracterization email was sent around, halting us again. And then somehow
Who was that sent by?
Chris Harmer, the chair of the Alliance to Reclaim Our Schools, and he's been chair for 3 years, and there's never been any elections. Like, we don't really know how to get. Louisville PTO tried to join AROS, and they wouldn't let her. They discredited Latasha's organization and said that it was Dear JCPS originated. They tried to make it sound like because it hadn't been in existence for a long time or didn't have capacity. There were all these barriers for her when Louisville PTO definitely should have been the type of organization that had a seat at AROS. And so we went outside of AROS and we started our own Stand with JCPS coalition. And he actually sent an email around to those organizations telling them not to join on, not to sign on. Like the number of attempts that have been made to prevent us from getting any traction with our own messaging and communication channels and support have been derailed. And JCTA is sitting at the table at AROS and able to be one voice that somehow has unilateral capacity to vote, but then they also got put on your steering committee. So they've got all these seats at all these tables, and the real authentic grassroots groups are being left behind. So that is problematic. Go ahead.
Just really quickly address the steering committee. You know, and I have a lot of respect for the chair, Alice Houston. She is one of the most respected women in the entire community. I asked her to lead it. From that point on, it's an independent organization. I attend meetings every once in a while so that I can help them out. But you know, they're open arms and asking people to be a part of that group. So Audwin Helton is another one that I have deep respect for. He has been committed to JCPS for many years. So, you know, it's hard for me to say whether, you know, who should be at that table or not. I mean, they're the ones that are raising money for the campaign. So I'm not telling them who it.
We were, Dr. Pollio, we were raising money for a campaign. We have our own proposal and our own direction that we've been trying to go.
I mean, I think multiple people can. So I just want to say this. This is my belief. I believe for us to be successful, we have to have all kinds of people at all kinds of groups. And if GLI wants to support us, I'm behind it. You know, if PTA, PTO, Dear JCPS want to support it, I think that's how you win this thing. You have to have a wide variety of people supporting it. So I agree with you, Gay. I don't disagree with that at all.
But what she's saying is we're being shut out.
Actively,
So I guess
hostily, with mischaracterizations and attacks.
So tell me how I can help. I don't know how I can help with Eros. I really don't, but tell me how I can help.
Well, Chris Harmer got a meeting with the consulting firm. We've been asking for a meeting with the consulting firm, and then he comes on the call that you hosted and says, well, when I met with the consulting firm, and we were all gasping because we're like, how did that even happen? Because he knew we wanted to be heard. And we told him we didn't feel like he was conveying our concerns adequately, and how do we get him replaced? And he said, I'll have to look into that. Like, we don't even know how to do elections in Eros because there's no real bylaws. So,
well, I can tell you this, and I'm going to be honest, I have not spoken to Chris Harmer by phone or email since that call in June.
I don't think it's you. I think it's Brent McKim. I think it's JCTA. I think
that could be true, but you know, we're different organizations that sometimes agree and sometimes don't agree with JCTA. But I will do. Let me just say this to you all: I will do everything I can to help. I respect you all. I respect your commitment to education. I don't want you to be shut out. I'll do what I can to help with that, and I'm happy to help with that if I can. But you know, I'm willing to help in any way I can.
I think, Marty, what Gay is trying to express is that my community feels that we are shut out. That just like that we just don't get the resources or the opportunity to be at the table. We always have to create our own tables, and then when the table is created, we still are shut out.
Or it's just one and done.
So it has to be thing. It has to be more inclusive. Like, you have to be a part of creating the change because you are the head of JCPS, and we need people that are going to pull us into the table, pull us into situations, and understand that the grassroots organizations that are actually in the community, we're not at the tables, we're not the heads of the big organizations or the corporate companies. We are the people that have the limited funds, the limited resources, but our passion, and we want change for our kids. But it has to be people that want to make us more inclusive and pull us in. Because it just doesn't happen. The reality is that it just doesn't happen easy for us. Even if we have all the passion in the world and all the plans and all the things that we come up with, great ideas, it still stops when you don't have the resources or you're not at the table when its decisions are being made.
So I understand that, and I completely respect that, and I agree with you on that.
So we just need to work together more.
I agree with that. All I can say, I 100% agree with what you're saying. I'm just saying I don't have influence with Eros and JCTA sometimes, but sometimes we're opponents in things. And so, you know, they want to be at the table with everything with us, but I don't get to go over to their meetings and be at the table with them. You know, so yes, I mean, we get along well, and I think we collaborate well, but, you know, there is still a lot of times they're on the opposite side of the table of us. So I'll just put it that way. So Latasha, I'm 100% in agreement with you. I just wanted to be, I'll do what I can with Eros and JCTA, but I can't say that I'm a major influencer of those two organizations.
Well, I know personally, I'm not asking for you to, with Eros and JCTA, I know that they're separate entities, but I'm asking you as JCPS to do more to help us be a part of the change.
I completely accept that.
Okay.
And just as a reminder, we are the taxpayers, we're the parents, we're the community, we're your customer. And I think we feel like we're not being heard. So when it feels like the will of the business community, the powerful white East End elites have more sway over what happens in our district than those who are in the trenches doing the work and recognizing the pain and the trauma and the hurdles and the challenges, and we feel shut out when that's where your answers are. We have all the answers. If you come and talk to the community, they know what they need, and that's why we need more local control. We need to be fighting to put site-based decision-making councils back into the schools in the West End, and maybe a district-wide SBDM that can be there, just like the district-wide Louisville PTO is working to cover schools that don't have strong parent involvement, so that it's district-wide until they can get their feet under them. Like, let us be part of the solution with you. We have so many great ideas and so much passion and concern for the future of our students. And we see these short-term solutions being implemented that don't have long-term effects, which end up causing more harm in the long run. So
a couple things. What I showed you is not short-term, that's long-term, but I agree with you. Second of all, I will say, I will work to bring you all to the table more, but it's not white East End people that I spend more time with the Louisville Urban League than any other organization in this city. And so, you know, we can say, yes, more at the table, but I am, that is an area where I spend a great deal of time, more than anybody else.
Louisville Urban League is a great organization, don't get me wrong, but also not one that we have a great deal of access to. So grassroots is grassroots, not big, powerful entities. So I just have another slide just demonstrating some of the delays that we were told. We were told that we had agreed to unconditionally support the tax increase. That was one way that they stopped our pledge, even though our pledge wasn't really all that conditional. It became more conditional when we started to feel that our voices were being shut out and we were being gaslit. These emails from Eros are conflating campaigns to misinform members and discredit us. And he told us that a 501c4 organization was being formed, and that's why we should wait. So if he knew that this organization was being formed and that's why we should wait, why is Eros not part of the like, if we're waiting because this thing is coming, then why wouldn't we have had a seat on that table? It just feels very manufactured. It feels very much like we should be upset and outraged over these events. They're not natural. They're manufactured. And we told you that this was happening on our July 16th call, and I sent you text messages demonstrating it. So did you have a chance to look at the text messages I sent you? I'm not going to keep putting you on the spot. I'm just very concerned because I hear you saying, yes, now you hear us, but I felt like you said, yes, now you hear us back in July. And so we are past that point with you, Dr. Pollio. We're going to have to see something more than words at this point. So okay. This is a brochure from 2002. The People's Agenda was formed under the leadership of folks like Ann Braden, and Danita Wright, who's on our call, was part of the Coalition for the People's Agenda back in 2002, and she's our former interim chair of the Kentucky Alliance, and initiated the revival last year. And we've added, there are 8 areas of concern under the People's Agenda. It's not just, this was originally formed as part of the city-county merger to try to prevent all the power from being consolidated into the city power structures, and make sure that the county schools and the county entities still had, and correct me if I'm doing any of this wrong, Janita, but there was concern that the power was going to be usurped with this merger. And so the Coalition for the People's Agenda created 8 areas of concern, and it was mostly directed to the Louisville Metro, new Louisville Metro government. But education is one of the 8 components. And then during the revival last year, we added a 9th component. And then when we kicked off our education committee meetings this year under the Kentucky Alliance, we added we passed a resolution that went before the board and passed that we would add the JCPS budget as part of the overall education concerns. So we are working on a list of demands for JCPS. So the people's agenda is an agenda that is a working document that addresses the concerns that the community has. And so
it is another way. It's another way for us to get a seat at the table.
Yep.
So we all just work this document. This is this document to when the merged cities occurred, the merger occurred. We wanted to make sure that we had a seat at the table. However, we had a series of deaths, Ann, Braden, Lewis, Coleman, and we went through traumatic just experiences that, got us away from this, but we revived it last year. And again, all we're trying to do is get a seat at the table, not to destroy the city, but to help build it up. Just give us a seat at the table. We're not trying to destroy the JCPS. We're trying to help build it up, trying to help you.
And I was going to say, when we form like yes to JCPS and we go after the people that can raise the most funds and then put them in charge of assigning who's going to be part of that board, unless we're making some demands intentionally to include grassroots organizations, we find ourselves yet again not at the table.
Exactly.
And we've asked for introductions to those players that have the money. We have some really great ideas. We have some really powerful influencers in this community that would get right on board with a lot of this stuff, and we just need to make some introductions
I mean, I can do that. I can do that. Like,
said that though. I don't mean to be disrespectful, Dr. Pollio, but you've said that.
But Gay, that's not my organization. I don't run that organization. Okay, they're making, right now, they're probably making decisions independently of me. Technically, I'm not supposed to be a part of that. I donated to it, but I'm not supposed to be a part of it because I'm an employee of JCPS. So, I understand, but I feel like that everything, all the frustration is put on me from Eros, JCTA, yes for JCPS. So I want to bring you to the table that I'm sitting at, but I also remember this, I've got 7 board members that sometimes do what I like and sometimes don't do. And so, that's the real table where the decision gets made. So I do what I can, but I also feel like, some of these things are outside of my purview.
All right, well, we want you to be aware so that maybe you can run interference, because it's an unfair situation. All the money and power is being taken up, taking up all the seats, and the impacted community is not being heard or seen, and their needs are not being met. People are not only being left behind in their education, but our mothers, our Black mothers, are in pain. Their children are being left behind. Their children are being fed to the pipeline to prison. They're being targeted by police in schools. They're being fed racist curriculum and subjected to high stakes tests that are harmful. And then their schools and their communities are labeled and punished. And you mentioned, you acknowledged that the student assignment plan is racist. And yet the proposed changes really don't do anything to dismantle the structurally racist piece of it. It is an improvement, but my concern too is if the community is giving up some of the leverage by going to the dual resides option without getting something equivalent in return, and it's a slippery slope that could lead to resegregated schools. And in fact, we have resegregated schools. We're not even staying true to the goals that were set forth in 2008 when the student assignment plan was drastically revised after the Supreme Court case. So I know you're going to have to jump off soon, and I'm going to jump down to, I'm just going to go through these slides really quick because I want you to see how much information that we've been trying to share with you over the past several months. We can't speak at board meetings. We haven't been able to get a meeting. This is what our current student assignment plan looks like. It's inequitable. This is what it might look like if it were equal. We're not even to equal because we don't have quality schools in the West End. And just because you build quality schools doesn't mean they're going to come. We need the programs. We need the innovation that attracts families like mine from the East End to the West End. We have to do things that make our schools desegregated because we've created the magnets. The magnets need to work the way that they're intended and be magnetic and draw people to the schools that are struggling. And this is what it might look like if we were equitable, having more, the same if not more families sending their kids from outside of the West End into the West End. And so we're not even having these types of conversations. This is the kind of conversation that PTA would be willing to partner with you. I've talked to Carla Robinson, and I know PTA would be willing to partner with you to communicate the inequities that exist in the district and help get families on board. So I've requested that you reach out to PTA and try to schedule times to talk to the presidents and do some kind of presentation. We have a presentation called In Their Shoes that we tried to present in James Craig's district last November. Greg, Yvonne, and I spent a rainy Saturday at Starbucks putting together the topics and the graphics and the messaging, and we had a postcard ready. And again, that's another example of something that Chris Harmer and JCTA managed to derail and gave James Craig the impression that we weren't ready when in fact we were. And these are the types of things that we're missing opportunities to get in. We have a great story. We have an amazing story to tell. We need to get out in the community and explain to families why we need this tax increase and why we need to make major adjustments to student assignment and convince people that this is the right thing to do, not just try to sweep it under the rug and maybe even challenge it in court so that it passes even if it fails at the ballot box, which is another PR disaster if that happens. You need our support. You need us out there helping you tell this story. And when we get the tax increase, when it passes, everybody's on board because they've all heard the story now and they've all bought into it. And we're missing these opportunities to have meaningful conversations. So flipping the script for equity is one of our 4 demands. We have EARN. We want you to earn the people's vote. So E is the evaluation. We want an evaluation. We want a REAP done on the current student assignment plan in its entirety. And I know you said at the September 1st board meeting that one had been done, but I've done 2 separate open records requests. Both of them have come back and said that there isn't one. So I'm not.
Those are part of our task force meetings on student assignment were the REAPs.
I understand those were REAPs for the proposed changes, though. We need to know, we need a baseline. Well, Dr. Pollio, you need to talk to your open records attorney because she's told me twice. And we still want to see it. So PTA asked for a live presentation. Carla Robinson and the 15th District PTA asked for a live presentation of the REAP so that the community can see how you came to your analysis. So even if it does exist, we still haven't seen it. We still don't know what it says. And that needs to happen before you vote. If you're planning, are you planning to vote on September 29th for the student assignment plan?
No.
Okay, so that's been postponed a little bit more. We have a little bit more time.
I've decided that student assignment is too important. I don't want unintended consequences. So until I feel like we have support, I'll keep selling it. Which I'm making the rounds now again. And whenever we feel comfortable that we've had enough conversation, then I'll take it to the board, but not until then.
So are there people opposed to the dual resides idea?
This is every feedback I get, Gay, is this when I talk student assignment. Okay, thank you for showing us how inequitable our current student assignment plan is and why it's so bad. Clearly, you can see that it's redlined. Shawnee couldn't have students, even if they wanted them by that map. But thank you for showing us that we agree with you. Your idea is a good idea, but how are you going to make these schools an attractive option for families of West Louisville? So that is now, we put together a support plan for the proposed new middle school and academy at Shawnee. that would show how they're going to be a viable option for families. So, you know, we're starting to make the rounds again to talk about that out in the community. Obviously, out in the community means like this, virtual, which makes it a little bit harder. It does. You're not in person talking to people. But no, I'm just not going to take it, and it's too important. I look back at the decision made in 1984, and I'm going to tell you all this. I've read the history of this. The racist undertones in 1984 when they made white students stop busing and black students being the only one. And here's what they did. No one knows this, that DuPont Manual and Central were chips thrown in at the end because they were essentially all black schools at the time. DuPont Manual was almost an all black school at the time. They were thrown in at the end and were called voluntary busing. So the district put them as voluntary busing and made them magnet schools so that when white kids went to them from East Louisville, they could say, oh, we're still busing 30% white kids and 70% black kids. Now, clearly that language went away after a decade or so. That's how Manual was created. Manual was created because of this 1984 student assignment plan. Now, Central has obviously remained very diverse. Manual is not. So that's a part of the student assignment plan too. But anyway, I just threw that in because, you know, studying the history of this and how it has all come to be, I don't want to be 20 years from now someone who looks back and says, what was he thinking, the unintended consequences that occurred from this. But I'm telling you this also about this student assignment plan. When you look at the feeder patterns that a kid has to go to from West Louisville, and their only option is to Ramsey Middle School at Gene Snyder and Billtown Road, I mean, and we wonder why they are missing school if they miss the bus, then you would think, okay, their high school must be J-Town. Nope, their high school is Doss. Like, what kind of why would we expect to have any sense of belonging when a kid is going from the West End to Ramsey and then to Doss? So that's what I hear, Gay, is, and so I know we're not there yet, and we're still willing to work, but you know, if it's January when I put it in front of the board, it's January. I am going to get something in front of the board to get rid of this, but I'm not going to do it until we feel like it has been vetted and we feel comfortable with it. Things are hard right now with virtual and with NTI. So we'll just keep plugging away at it until we get to the point where we feel, and you all feel like you're comfortable with it.
I appreciate that. Like I said, this is the E in EARN, the evaluation. At the bottom of the slide, I have an example of how this might carry forward to the resolution as well, because having a goal where the district strives to have all of its schools come within plus or minus 15% of the overall district demographics, so that you don't end up with a high saturation level of poverty or minority or disability, you know, if we can set a demographic goal to try to have all of our schools strive to be within a margin like that, then when you see a shift, then you look at that specific example and say, maybe we need to invest in that school to try to draw more families from these other demographics. So you can adjust it through innovative programs and other types of resources as well. So
I couldn't agree more. I just want to add to this, the challenge that is added to this is we live in one of the most segregated housing cities in America. And East End parents, you're an outlier, Gay, but most East End parents will send their kid to the West End if it's an exclusive school like Brandeis Elementary.
I don't think everybody is like me for sure, but it doesn't take everybody. If just 10% or 5%, you know, just
I agree with that.
And planting the seed and having a dual resides that goes both ways. Like my son lived in the Eastern school district. If he woke up and saw that he had Eastern and Shawnee as his choices, it might plant a seed. So we also want dual resides for everyone. Everyone in the East End and the South End and wherever else should also have a West End option, because it might just be 3 or 4 more students that, you know, kind of starts that. And then once you get students down there, then they tell their friends and you know, people realize that they were misinformed but we're not having the conversation. So that's the first thing that needs to happen is we have to start talking about it and start doing things to get people to get outside of their comfort zones.
If I can interject something very quickly, because I know everyone's pressed for time.
I got about
I
4
didn't
minutes.
realize we've already done it once. You're the one who've opened my eyes. We did it with Manual. That school was almost exclusively African American, and you built something that made white kids come.
What do
Maybe-
you think that was, Yvonne?
Well, they had, who doesn't want to be at the school that made famous and fame?
Well, all I'll say is this. Listen, I'm sure you all have listened to that podcast, Nice White Parents. But it is wanted because it's exclusive. If I put a resides in Manual, like if I drew a line around Manual and put a resides in, all of a sudden you wouldn't be so, people wouldn't want to go there so much. And that's unfortunately an unfortunate reality of our community, population, nation. And the underbelly of that is racism. I believe that. So that doesn't mean we can't do it, but I just want to say that.
And that's why the teachable moments that we're doing is so important. There's so much we still need to talk to you about, Dr. Pollio. Maybe we do need to get our next meeting. Here's some examples of the high correlation with poverty and race. And we need to be doing things to restore power to these schools, but also knowing, like the REAP needs to include the extent of the booster support and the volunteer hours and the ability for PTA to fundraise and whether or not they have SBDMs. And you see the correlation. A lot of our West End schools have lost their site-based decision-making councils. You see a lot of our students that are in alternative schools are coming out of the West End because we put them in a situation that is not supporting their learning needs. So
could you forward up real quick back to the PTA? I agree with you. I just want to highlight one thing. With our current student assignment plan. Right now, kids in West Louisville, one of the highest poverty areas in the city, are bused to Iroquois, Doss, Valley, Wagner, Fairdale, all of those. So kids leave their community. And when we first started, it was to go to a non-Title I school. Now, almost every one of our reside school is a Title I school. So we are busing kids from a poor community to Doss who has no PTA cash on hand. So, I mean, I only say that. I just wanted to highlight
we have some really great ideas.
I'm happy to, but I wanted to make that a point of the student assignment plan.
Well,
so.
Yes, and yes, it's a longer conversation. Let me stop on this slide real quick. Since you're possibly postponing the decision, this is something you could do right away, and that's remove the application barrier. If a student lives in the West End, they shouldn't have to meet the minimum requirements to apply to attend the school closest to their home. If you could remove that, but make sure you provide the supports too. So if you have a higher when you have students choosing the school closest to their home, you're going to have a higher concentration of all the things that need extra support. So just simply allowing a student to choose the school closest to their home without providing the supports and resources and smaller class sizes and mental health counselors and trauma-informed care and everything.
Isn't that what I'm doing? I mean, essentially, I'm removing any of the barrier from a student from West Louisville wanting to attend the school close to their home.
Yes, I've been asking for this for a while now, and you could still go ahead and do this one thing though without even implementing the dual resides. You could just go ahead and remove this application barrier.
Okay, I think that's what I think we're doing the exact same thing. I think it just is a more comprehensive view of it and change, but I think we are saying the exact same thing.
Right, but it shouldn't take 2.5 years worth of committee work and a board. I mean, this is a no-brainer in my opinion. This is a barrier. When you identify a racial barrier, it should be eliminated as quickly as possible. So I feel like this is a little bit different than dual resides because dual resides is more comprehensive and it has more of a presentation to it. This doesn't require a presentation, it's just a barrier that needs to be removed. So I see it.
Well, just know that we still get you're resegregating schools again. So, I mean, that's no different. We're accomplishing the same thing. You're just doing it a different way.
Oh, that's back to the resolution that we were going to talk about is how we keep from, we want desegregated schools, but we don't want it to be on the backs of our West End families. Let's figure out what we need to do to flip the script and make it more equitable.
I disagree with you at all.
Pardon?
I said I don't disagree with you at all.
So I know you got to go. In a recap, here's EARN, evaluate the current student assignment plan. We want an anti-racist budget for the A, which is the invest-divest conversation. We want a resolution to support the people's agenda. We wanted it by the September 29th board meeting. October 13th is the deadline for ballots and people starting to vote. So that's our real deadline. Right now, as of right now, the Kentucky Alliance and other organizations have not come out in support of the tax increase. So we're on a red. If you saw the chart that I showed earlier, we're still going to be a red. And until we feel that the district is working in good faith and starts to demonstrate, we need more than words. We need to see some of these demands being addressed. Then we might be able to bring forward some support for the tax increase. But right now, the coalition is on a not until. You know, we don't support the tax increase until certain things happen. And there are members of our coalition who are not only neutral or no, but actually are adamant enough that change needs to happen that they're willing to campaign against it. And so I don't think you want to see that happen. I didn't mean that to sound like a threat. It's more of a warning. These are things that I'm hearing. These are things that I'm observing. I've been accused of drumming up anti-tax increase messaging, and that's not the case at all. I'm simply amplifying these voices because we're losing them. The Black vote is a very important vote. West Louisville is a very important voting block, and they know that the Alliance has not come out in support, and they will turn out and vote against it if they feel that they're not being negotiated with in good faith. And so we're here. We're your ally. We're here to bring you this warning and this concern and say, let us help you. Help us help you in doing what we need to do to encourage people to come out in support of this tax increase. And I have some other examples of teachable moments that I wanted to share with you where we've hit dead ends. The district does not have systems in place to address when microaggressions and things that should be addressed when they're still small happen. And so we end up with situations where it becomes a grievance or a lawsuit, and teachers have been harmed and students have been harmed and educators have been harmed. So these are some examples where I reached out to Ms. Wren like you asked me to, and basically she came back and said at the end of the day, we're following our protocols. There's nothing else that can be done. But if this teacher has concerns, the teacher that was sent a harassing text message, it's up to her to go to her principal and go to JCTA. But if it's already been demonstrated in that school that the principal and JCTA are on the other team essentially, and she'll just end up getting targeted too, what options does she have? So we need you to sit down and talk to us about some of these concerns and how the policies maybe need to be modified or some other protocols in place to make it possible to keep these students safe, because we shouldn't be relying on this teacher that received a harassing email or text message to do something, because at the end of the day, it's the students that we want to keep safe.
Hey, will you send me all of these? I need to know what, I don't have what your, the things you are saying about the resolution.
Okay, so the resolution, this would be under the People's Agenda, the Coalition for the People's Agenda, something along the lines of a community oversight committee, much like what we're calling for with the police. The district, we would like to see a community oversight committee of some sort around the district as well, because when investigations are taking place, we've uncovered some patterns of bias. We've uncovered the selection of witnesses. They pick and choose what witnesses to interview. And then we've even seen testimonies manipulated, where one of our teachers thought that she had given a testimony acknowledging that she had witnessed racist behaviors from another teacher. And then when she read her testimony in the report, it actually had been manipulated. So when she read it, she cried. She felt violated. She thought that she had given a testimony that was going to vindicate her what she had witnessed and do the right thing for these students and for these educators. And instead, it had twisted the words to make it sound like the teacher had not done something that she had done. So we've seen these patterns that when I bring them to the investigative team, they tell us we're following procedures. So we've hit a wall. So this falls under the Coalition for the People's Agenda in the sense that it would be part of this working document where we would ask for some type of community oversight for these investigations, similar to what they're doing with police, which, by the way, that was also a Kentucky Alliance. The community oversight, Danita, are you still with us? The community oversight that took place in the first time when we had oversight of the police, that was a Kentucky Alliance originated program. So it's being revived right now too, but that came from the Alliance.
Okay, I'm gonna have to run, Gay. I'm about 25 minutes late here. I'm
All
sorry.
right. This is our countdown. We've got a few things coming up. We've got your board meeting on the 29th. We've got a rally on the 30th. Our decision day is going to be October 11th. So you have until October 11th to give us a good reason to come out and support of the tax increase. And so hopefully that means we'll have some follow-up meetings between now and then, and we can share that good news with our coalition.
Okay.
And the 13th is when voting begins. So we're going to have a red light in the window of the second floor of the Carl Braden Center, and when we feel confident that when our steering committee feels confident that our demands are being met with good faith, then we'll turn that red light to green, and the community knows that that's what that message is about. So,
Okay.
be on the right side of history when the dust settles.
Yep. All right, guys. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
All right, and if anybody wants to stick around afterwards, I know Dr. Pollio has to leave, but if anybody wants to stick around, I'm happy to answer any more questions.
All right, I have a few questions.
All righty.
Could I get your email really quickly, just so I can talk to you about this later in a minute?
So mine is moderator, MODERATOR.
Okay.
JCPS, dearjcps.com.
You said at jcps.com?
I'm sorry, at dear, DEAR.
Oh, yeah.
jcps.com.
Okay. And also, I noticed that somebody was recording the meeting. Was that you?
It is.
Okay. If I email you later, could you be able to send that recording to me?
Let me check with our committee and see if that's if we're ready to share it. I do think we are going to be sharing it as part of like our radio show and some other things. So when we're ready to do that, I will definitely send you a copy. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Bet. Thank you for joining us. Any other thoughts? Feedback? Was I too? What, you guys usually tell me I'm too aggressive. So was I too aggressive?
Always too aggressive.
You are really aggressive, but
He said 5:10, and you didn't let him go till 5:35. I was like, dang. I don't think you took a breath in that 25 minutes at all. I don't think you breathed at all. You just.
I know he was scared to say, "I gotta go." Like I really gotta go.
It was like,
you know, he could have met us sooner.
I don't know what he was late for, but he was late.
And they shouldn't make it so we have to cram everything in an hour call where he took up the first half. I mean, come on now.
yeah. I'm spent for today, y'all. I ain't gonna lie. I'm spent.
Me too. I'm mentally exhausted, and I'm watching the stuff that's going on downtown right now.
I can't see nothing. Because I normally watch on my phone, and y'all are on my phone, so I can't watch it on my computer for some reason.
If you already sit, don't even do it. Don't do it. Don't even watch.
Yeah, one of the things that made me late was that I actually ended up on the outskirts of the barricades, right when I needed to be heading back towards home, and oh my gosh, it was starting to get a little chaotic. I mean, and then I watched about at least 24 KSP come off the interstate along with the mobile command unit. Actually, like recorded like the last third of them rolling down the interstate, like coming off the interstate, going, "Oh my god!"
But I just can't. I can't look away from the pain of my community. Like I can't turn a blind eye to think that, you know, I'm in my house and I'm not hurting. I want to be there with them. I want to be a part of this process, but
Yeah, I was literally probably one of the, I might have been the only Uber driver in the city that would stay in the West End. So I was like, okay, I'm sorry, y'all, I gotta go. I gotta get to this meeting. Because I was like, quit, I gotta stop taking calls now. So, but yeah, people were pretty frantic trying to get home and everything.
Well, I know everybody probably is spent today, and I think we're going to hopefully get another chance to talk with him before they do anything on student assignment. And, you know, the ball's in their court. And I think that's what I wanted to make sure was real clear. And as of right now, they don't have the vote. And if October 13th comes around and they still haven't earned the vote, there are people who will be telling people to, people will be going to the polls.
Gay, are you following this up with like an email or something to him so that it's in black and white in front of him exactly what
yes, that's a great
what it looks like to earn? Because I think a lot of it, I mean, I love that he seems to have an answer for everything you say. And I don't think that his thoughts are misguided. I hear and understand what he was trying to say, but at the same time, I don't want it to just be earplay, you know, or another politician-like answer that does not really lend to the type of collaboration that we're looking for. So,
how is it that some people in certain positions as his are able to do whatever their agenda is, but then there are other people in his position like his that say, well, that's not what the people want. There's these people who are just racist, and you know, you got to please them. And he didn't say it like that, but you know, it's like I don't get how some are able to just push through, like our president. just push it on through, you know, like Mitch, you know.
oh, you're talking about just sign an executive order
just
skip
one
the bureaucracy
person
of
can
it
just
all?
push stuff on through. He can seat whoever he wants to seat at the table. I noticed that, and that's what stings me when a person said, well, you know, it's not just up to me. It's not, you know, I don't have no control over that. But you're in a position and you create these tables.
Right. And the crazy thing that you say that is because, like, watching the board meetings the last two ones, and I talked to Gay about this, it's like Marty makes decisions without the board because you then present to them and then you take out information that they don't know about, just like the community hubs. They don't know all the background information that we know because we got information on the inside. What's he doing out there? But you present to the board half of the information, and they're all like, oh, wow, we're doing this. But they don't know all the things that happen in the background. That they took away some of the Black churches, they took away some of the things that the churches wanted to do, and they limit them access to things.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. You know, he's saying that there's some board members that, you know, and we've spoken to the board members. They said, well, there's other people that we don't even know how to get to the buck because they're passing the buck back and forth. Well, it's their fault. Well, it's their fault. Well, it depends on them. No, it depends on them. We don't. So
right.
That's the frustration. You know, where does the buck stop?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right.
Or at least tell us where it begins so we know where to start.
Exactly.
And those little answers he gave, like, oh, I don't have anything to do with any of that. you know, that's the same thing we heard when we were frustrated with some of the things happening in PTA.
But
And
how come you donated to them though, but you're not
I caught that
supposed
too.
to be a part of them because you're a JCPS employee? I was
I
like,
caught that too.
huh? I'm confused. I think I might be sleepy, but you donated? And you're not technically supposed to be a part of them because you're a JCPS employee. So what is that? You're saying that you buying or donating into it gives you a seat at the table, or are you saying that you donating into it gives you the ability to have a conflict of interest in their support of policies, procedures, and funding that is directly related to our district? I'm trying to figure all of this out. You know, I'm new to all of this, Gay, so I ask questions. I'm trying to pay attention, and literally I'm working towards building my vocabulary so that I can be amongst you all and when I have this seat at the table, I'm able to bring something that's worth something. But I'm appalled and astonished at the things that I am seeing as I venture to have a voice in our community, because I can't stand on the front lines. I want to be in the movement somewhere. And so, yeah, I'm like, wow.
No, I've traveled, you know, working for the airlines and everything. I've traveled a lot. And everywhere, and I kid you not, especially in the East Coast, everywhere I've been, you know, Kentucky is a joke. The school system is a joke. It is, I mean, a running joke. I kid you not. I kid you not. And just imagine if we could build a school system that would be the envy of the nation. Imagine that. I mean, where doctors come up out. We're Harvard, the pre-Harvard of all the schools. You know what I'm saying? Imagine that. Like we were trying to tell them, we're not trying to tear it down, trying to build it up.
Right.
Well,
we want to build productive citizens.
One of the issues is they take brand new teachers and they put them in the most struggling schools without any support and without any help. And then you have brand new principals and brand new teachers, and everybody's brand new. And these kids never are able to build relationships with adults because they may or may not be there the next year. It's like a revolving door, and it just doesn't stop. And brand new principals and brand new teachers are not what the kids need that need the most help, that are the most vulnerable. They need they need the A-team. That's what they need.
And Kimberly makes a point that it's not just they have a lot of new teachers. And then the other half have been there 20 years and can help mentor. No, the old lady's been there 5. So, it's not a saying of man, they got too many new teachers. So half the staff is new, but the other staff is in a range. Nuh-uh. The veterans have been there 5 years and have got a transfer going on. Am I lying, Kimberly?
I know in this day and age, people are after money. All systems are after money. And they believe I'm just gonna say, if maybe they believe that if they build poor schools, they get more money. The poorer the schools, the more the money. But I've heard that when you have good schools, there's a lot more money at the top that they'll pour into good schools. That the federal government has waiting for good schools also. So they're not looking at the top at all. I guess because it's too much work to get there.
No, when you have
the good schools pull the parent support, those strong PTAs and SBDMs who are able to go in and vote in different programs and options for their schools. The good schools have a lot of support. You look at Great House and how much money they earn to donate. They give away $100,000 a year to Cozaire through their fundraisers. And that's all coming out of the parents' pockets.
Right.
The kids are buying a dress down day or, tickets to their fall festivals, and they're giving it back to the community at an elementary school. They're taking from 10-year-olds, 5-year-olds, and giving it back in. That it's not like, yeah.
We're in the age of the baby boomers, though, where a lot of us are retired. So we're able to become parents like that. But when you grew up not being parents like that, you have to, somebody's got to teach you how to do that. It's just they didn't grow up that way. So
right.
The kids are out of the home. You're empty nester. We're the baby. This is a perfect time. There's a lot of us out there, empty nesters, baby boomers that can be. We would be soccer moms, but we would be. I don't know what is that racetrack they building over there on 30th and Muhammad Ali. We could be those kind of moms, whatever, sports moms. We can be fundraising moms. But nobody's taught us to do, we didn't come from that kind of teaching.
Right. And if we keep everybody segregated, how are we ever going to share and learn from each other?
It's just like having a lot of fresh new teachers and nobody to mentor them. You have a fresh new moms and parents, that nobody's there to mentor them, to teach them how to fundraise, how to do these things. But there's a lot just sitting there ripe for the picking.
I mean, that's one of the first things that immediately struck me when I realized how messed up the map. I really had never realized before meeting like a lot of you how just completely screwed the districting plan is. And like, how does that encourage any parental involvement? How does that encourage any student involvement? I mean, oh, geez. I mean, I had one school that I automatically opted out just because it was a 20-minute drive from me when I was looking at my own child's options. And I'm like, if that being a actually relatively closer choice than a lot of these schools have was too much of a pain for me to even consider, I'm like, I don't even want to think what these parents have to go through.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and that's why the evaluation for the student assignment plan is so critical, because how students are assigned to schools impacts and has so many domino effects. And I pulled this slide up again too, because the test scores is what people use to choose their schools. And so then it becomes self-fulfilling and perpetuating. So the schools that have high scores end up attracting the families that have the resources and the time and the transportation, and it just becomes this compounding.
It's really more than just about resources. It's really about, I mean, when you go into these schools, and I grew up in the West End, so I feel like I can say this. When you go into some of these schools in the West End, I would not send my own child to that school. It's a level of disrespect to Black teachers, Black parents, and Black students are at these schools. It's horrible, actually. And right now I'm at an East End school, and the principal is white, and he treats us with more respect than I ever got in the West End, to be honest. And so that's sad.
Right.
I think that speaks to what you were talking about earlier too. So just imagine being the white teacher in some of these buildings and in a brand new white teacher. So it's the culture shock. It's not just money. It's throwing all these teachers that may have the best ideas in the world, but they've got, a few years to learn to be able to deal with the student population. And the culture shock is so bad, they wait their 5 years and then they're going to transfer out to the East End and never look back. And that's the pattern we have going with teachers, and we've got to find a way to break it.
I was wondering why they don't allow the students to help out. You know, when students follow students, peers were my worst. You know, I'm fighting against peers. I'm trying to teach my daughters one thing. They come home, but she said, well, how old is she? 12? 12? And you're going to go with what she said over what I said? You know, so I just wondered what happened to student unions. You know, why won't they let the students?
The students do exactly what you're saying, but the conversation is more like, oh, they treating you bad? Well, that means they're treating me bad. And so I'm going against them too because of how they treated you. So they're aligned with each other based on bad treatment.
Okay, I didn't get that one. Say that again.
The kids are loyal to each other,
yeah,
especially when it's negative. From somebody's been an adult, has been negative to one of their friends, then they're going to side with their friend. So they're going to be ready to burn up the school if the school was bad to their friend or if the school was bad to them.
Okay. So there's no way to show them that I don't know how to get, well, I do know, you know, as far as, you know, like if you take and I'm gonna say it, if you take gang members, there's an attraction to gang members, you know, and the attraction is money. You know, they get this, it's not, you know, it's money, but they got, you know, the police looking over their shoulders, blah, 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 blah. And strength and fear from people.
And brotherhood and family.
Yeah. But it's mostly fear. You know, it's not real love. There's no love there at all. It's fear, brotherhood out of fear, not out of love. So if you flip the switch and build something, a brotherhood of love, a brotherhood out of love, a brotherhood that's, you know, like I've been reading these books where these multiple kids got together. Like one book is called The Pack. They made a pack that one became a doctor, all of them became doctors. You know, they just got together and they all became doctors because that was the pack, you know. So I guess what I'm trying to say is if we could figure ways to create these student unions and offer some kind of a pack, you know, to these kids where they're gonna go places, they're gonna be somebody, they're going to, and when one becomes it, the other's gonna become it too. Make a pack. I don't know. Y'all trying to? You see what I'm following? Anybody following me?
I'm following you, and we do not have to reinvent that wheel. The movie Stand and Deliver is oversimplified. Okay, he didn't get those kids doing calculus in a year and all that crap. You know, that was for the movies.
Mm-hmm.
But in real life, he built an AP calculus class. That part is true.
Right.
In a school that had never had it, where all the kids were bad at math. And he did it the way you're saying. They were like the math gang. And he got money for them. You know how they have those sports jackets, right? I play football and they have those little jackets.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? The little letters and everything.
Yeah.
Garfield High in California. He had Garfield High math jackets. so you could stride down the hall and everybody would know you are a math badass.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know? And so,
other
gee,
kids look up to you. You know, like,
why should Danita be the only one with a math jacket? Yvonne wants one too. What the heck?
You know what it makes me think of, you guys? We during the JCTA call the other day, and they started showing us about extra monies that are available. Did you see that they are now funding a position for a Black Student Union sponsor at every school? I think middle school and high school. And so we could like collectively make sure that there is a Black Student Union in place with the agenda that they are building their student body to help push them forward. I mean, that could be a very real thing and I mean, there is a nice little incentive of about $2,400 a year to have a sponsor in there that is doing what we want.
We could recruit the right sponsor.
I texted my principal and asked her about her thoughts on BSU at our school, and she said she thought it was important. And so I reached out to a friend of mine whose son is the president of his Black Student Union at Atherton. I don't know if you all remember. Latasha may remember if she's still on the call. Some of the things that they were, I think she's gone from the call now. They were having some issues over there at Atherton, and I was really proud. A former student of mine was in the midst of them having a conversation with administration about some demands that they had for their administration to attend to the needs of their Black students at their school. So they're Black and brown students at their school, I'll say that. So I think that might be the direction that we need to go if we can find somebody, if we can develop that curriculum that asks, what are we wanting the Black Student Union to accomplish? And then putting somebody in place at each school that is slated to carry on that task of coordinating and putting our kids in the right mind frame to develop that type of camaraderie amongst themselves.
Cool.
I mean, I think we might be onto something with that.
That's cool. That sounds cool. Yeah, I like that. I like that.
There's a couple things already going that might be intersectional. One is a men equality that Kumar Rashad is putting together. We're also talking about connecting Asala to that program that Association for Study of African American Life and History has some programs already in place around mentoring, but also has some direction on.
At my school, the Men Equalities program has some gatekeepers, though. They are very careful at who they put in that program, and they only target certain students, even though we are predominantly African American school body. They are very careful what students they allow to join the Men Equality program. So I think that when I'm talking about a Black Student Union, the students choose who their leadership is, and the students choose who goes in what position. The sponsor's job is to give them the power and to help them to foresee or move correctly, in my opinion, but the power and the control comes from the kids.
Oh yeah, I don't disagree. I'm just saying there's things going, and I'm glad to hear that feedback. You're at Newburgh?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah. I think all kids should, especially in middle school, should learn the fundamentals of carrying out a board meeting, because the board meeting will follow you through. They won't be afraid to be on metro councils. They won't be afraid to join the Capitol Hill, be in Congress, because a board meeting is a board meeting is a board meeting. Same structure all the way up to the top. they will be very familiar with things like that, and they won't be a fish out of water at all. So that kind of student unions, I ran a 4-H club, and my 4-H clubs all over were structured as board meetings. They chose their own names, their own secretary, their own treasurer, their own president, vice president, and they carried out meetings, So I wanted them to get a little taste of what it is to run a board meeting.
Yeah. So I know we probably ought to wrap it up. Put these dates on your calendar. 1 week from tonight is the rally at Van Hoos. There will be speakers.
Still here.
Let me know about, you following through with that. Black.
Again?
She's muted and off camera, so I don't know if she's still paying us any attention. I would love to chat. I was, like I said, I reached out to my friend's son, who's the president at his school, because I wanted him to maybe be available to help train some of our students. Since I have my principal's support, I don't know at what point she would allow us to begin that, because our Safe Schools application, which is the application we have to fill out in order to start clubs at our school, I don't know if that falls under the same guidelines, because those dates have already passed. Mm-hmm. But if it's still an option to start a Black Student Union this year, I would need some experienced folks to help kind of get the framework set up. Mm-hmm. So that because I'm kind of new to all of that, but I saw that in the minutes the other day, and I was intrigued to want more information.
Do you know Quintez Brown? You ever heard of Quintez Brown?
No.
He led a Black Student Union at Manual High School.
My son was a part of his BSU at Mayo when he was there. And so I guess
great.
At this point, I just need...
You're set. You're good to go.
I have several contacts. I just need to, I only went as far as to ask what my principal's support was. And then when you had your comments, then I was like, well, wait a minute. Maybe there's a solution to the concern beyond just, I'll be back in touch with you. I gotta dig my feet in a little bit more.
Okay, great.
Okay. All right.
So, sorry, I kind of got dropped and I'm back. Put September 30th on your calendar for next week from today. We're gonna have some speakers at their event. And then October 11th is the deadline for them to let us know, and we'll share the good news or the bad news, I guess. The news as to whether or not it's going to be a red light or a green light on that day. And I had one other slide that I had skipped while he was on the call that I just wanted to cover with you guys because I think it's really important stuff. And that is this slide right here. If not now, when? And if not Dr. Pollio, who? Our West End families deserve more than just choice and a positive impact. Those were some words that Chris Kolb had used to describe this tax increase when he admonished us for having any concerns on the tax increase. He said, it is very difficult for me to imagine how investing over $50 million in West Louisville and giving families in West Louisville more choice will have anything but a positive impact on students and families that live in West Louisville. We don't discount that at all. It's just not enough. And it's insulting that, especially now that the climate has changed and the will is there, now more than ever. We want more than some plan that took them 2.5 years. It was pre-pandemic and pre-movement for Black lives. And as James Craig mentioned in the during the board meeting last week, this is not new. So if it's not new, why are we having to settle for it? What are you doing now that we are in the midst of this movement and in the midst of a pandemic? And why are you making us eat 2.5-year-old stale bread? So I wish I had time to talk about this with Dr. Pollio, because their own words indicate that they don't get it. And so that's what Latasha and I talked about before. And I see she has dropped off, but they have to demonstrate that they get it. And if we're not seeing that, so now more than ever, it's time to address racial inequities head on. The student assignment plan isn't even equal, much less equitable. That's why we need the REAP. Now is the moment to make meaningful change we all know needs to happen to be on the right side of history. Give us a reason. I did say that. The SEEK formula. We've got money leaving the county that would benefit the West End if it wasn't part of a big district. Like if it was another rural district, the SEEK formula would benefit the West End. So we non-West End families need the West End more than you guys need us, I'll tell you. And so we're not being fair, honest negotiators in this proposal. And that's one of the things that concerns me, is they're asking the West End to give up stuff without getting an equal trade in return. Let's be intentional. Let's be anti-racist. Give West End local control. We did talk about site-based decision making. JCPS needs the votes, and how it might look if it fails at the ballot box but still wins in court. And that bad PR will just cement people's opinions. Thank you, Danita. And we're about done. Any negative opinions that people have, something like that, that bad PR would just cement it. When we have a chance to be on the right side of this and get the story out and make everybody feel great about this. So we just have to tell the truth and earn the votes and bring racial justice to JCPS. That's all I have. Thanks everybody for joining the call and for making sure that Dr. Pollio knows that there is a groundswell of concern and that he's going to need to meet us where we are, and the ball's in his court. And yes, Kenyatta, that was a great idea. I will send a follow-up email summarizing the demands and some examples and things so that we have a way to say, look, here again, you had your chance, if that's what it comes down to.
And Greg, don't forget the leadership meeting. It's all Zoom all the time.
And Yvonne got locked up right then, it looks like. It's either her or me. We're all locked up.